the whole journey was strength I didn't know I had. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where the resilience, because for me, it was just day by day. And again, that belief that my story doesn't end here. And if there's going to be something more from this, if it can't be for me, who can it be for? And it was always my kids for the longest time.
This podcast is called The Pursuit because every meaningful life is spent pursuing something bigger than ourselves.
All right, everybody, welcome to the second episode of The Pursuit. Today's guest, I've been excited for this ever since this was kind of spoken into existence about 14 months ago. I sincerely remember us at Panera Bread talking about this potential. And when you push something away, God and the universe has a funny way of telling you to tell other people's stories. So today's guest is someone who works directly with leaders on one of the hardest parts of leadership. And that's making decisions, having very difficult conversations, and actually getting people to move. Her name's Kashaun Parker. I've known her for over a decade now. She's a leadership consultant. And bear with me because this is a long list, okay? She's a professional speaker. She's a 3-time best-selling author. And she's also the founder of Next Step Forward Coaching and Consulting. For over 2 decades, she's helped executives and emerging leaders strengthen how they lead, communicate, and drive results inside each and every organization. She's also been featured in multiple Voices of the 21st Century best-selling book series, sharing stories of women leading with purpose and resilience. She's also, since I've met her, received her master's degree. She's changed jobs. She has opened her own business. She has raised 3 children. But I think what makes her story so powerful isn't just what she's built professionally. It's what she's built personally. It's navigating loss. It's raising children, continuing her education, building a business, and of course, now pursuing her doctorate. Kashaun Parker, welcome to The Pursuit.
Thank you so much for that warm and welcome introduction. Pat, I'm excited. I'm excited for this conversation, and I'm excited for this opportunity. And you're right. 14 months ago, who knew that, this is what would come out of it? But I'm so happy that you took that charge and the initiative to bring The Pursuit into reality. So let's get started.
And I think you couldn't give me a better segue. So the podcast is called The Pursuit for a reason. And because every meaningful life is spent pursuing something bigger than ourselves, every guest who sits in your chair, right? And every listener is really what I want to elicit, and what we talked about before is we're all pursuing something. So Kashaun, the number one question we start with every single time, what are you in pursuit of today?
When I think of that question, I think for me, pursuit is just defying odds. I think that's the thing that stands out the most to me. Throughout all the transitions that I've been through and all of the accomplishments that I've achieved, there's always some stat. There's always some data that's out there, a data set. And what I also found to be true was that with that data set comes a set of beliefs, operating norms. And I didn't want to live according to any of that. So I thought if I'm going to do anything for myself, for my children, I think when we're parents, like we love to tell our kids, go out, you can conquer the world, you can do anything. Well, I didn't just want to teach that message or tell that message to my children. I wanted to be their first example. And so I didn't let anything that came about, be it personal or professionally, get in my way. And so what I've built as a result of that is just mind-blowing. It really is. But it was a conscious decision to just move beyond any stats, any deciding factors or anything like that, and decide I'm going to take control. I'm going to do what I can do, and let's see what I can achieve.
And it's such a powerful message to not only anybody listening, but also, for our relationship, because we've kind of piggybacked on each other and, transitioning from the W-2 world, right, to going out as business owners as well. Where where did that mindset or where did that pursuit kind of begin for you? Because I know you're a very successful executive before. And where did that kind of trigger in you?
Pat, I think it really came to life after losing my husband Maurice. And I'm thinking my life already feels like it's in shambles, and I'm trying to put the pieces back together and restabilize. And it almost seems like not long after that, the company that both me and Maurice work for, but now just me, and it's the sole, they made a decision that they were going to close. And I was like, okay.
Okay. All right.
Um, and I took that for me. I really did some internal soul searching. At the time, I was working with my own coach, and I was just like, I'm so sick of being hit upside the head by life. Like, what can I do? And outside of that, I began to brainstorm. I began to think, what can I do with this opportunity? Because that's what I looked at it as. I knew that I had a number of different options available to me. I did my research and I was like, I think I just want to help people that have found themselves on a path like mine. And that's all that I had. Is what got me started. And I just took that and ran with it.
And I don't want to spend a lot of time here because it's such a, to me, it's kind of a rebirth story. But walk us through a little bit of what that was like. How does that take shape? But you've just already mentioned it, right? So um, I can't imagine losing your best friend. Walk us through, I would say, because again, you would know this again, because this is what you coach and teach. What can somebody that wouldn't quite understand, what is that like of that transition and how much of an identity shift does that take?
Oh boy. Okay, so let's I always say try to start from the beginning, but there really isn't one. So you got to kind
Yes,
of create it.
sure.
And I think the aha awakening moment really started to take shape with the loss of Maurice. And I was just thinking, once I had made peace or settled with the grieving process, I was just like, I will not let this, I'm not going to let this victimize me. And I was so adamant about it because I knew that it was an event. I couldn't change the event, but I could change how I showed up, the things that I did, everything that came out of it. And the same is true with my career. I've always enjoyed, to some degree, driving and making an impact. And I think the turning point for me in my career was I started very entry level. And I would always ask questions about, well, I would ask the executives, like, how do you get to where you are?
Right?
And and I thought that, I was gonna get this really great advice. But my first response, it was heartbreaking because they said, well, we don't really invest in people at your level. And I said, that's good to know.
Oof.
And so I asked the next person and I just kept asking. And eventually the answers changed, but it gave me a framework in terms of how to lead. What does leadership look like? The different types and variations and how we show up. And I was like, I don't want someone to come across my path and ask that question, and that's the answer that I give them. I believe that when you want to do something, we as people, we owe it to ourselves and each other to just try to create pathways wherever possible. And that's why I chose the work that I do. That's why I chose to be the model for my kids. It's like if you're not willing to go first, then you kind of set yourself up to be at the mercy of whatever life hands you. Um, and I just wasn't willing to consider myself victimized in that space. I wanted to do more, be more, and so I did.
That has to start somewhere though. As far as right, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Again, I've known you for a decade. I'd never heard that much that absolute grit. That has to be from somewhere. Did you have that as a child where you're like, you're not going to tell me that I can't play with the older kids or something? Like, were you always, was it your parents? Was it you?
I don't necessarily know. I do know that that interaction sparks something in me. I'm not one that tends to take the status quo. So you tell me what is, and I'm going to
No,
show you what's
nope,
possible.
nope, nope.
Okay. And when I heard that, it was like, okay. And I sit with the sting of it, but then I'm like, okay, well, somebody did it. And for the longest, I've always had this obsession with success and successful people. I study greatness. I really do. Because I want to know, how do they think? What kind of questions do they ask? How do they move about their day, their world? And I feel like if I can do it, or if they can do it, then I can do it like them, and I'll figure it out along the way. And that really has been the foundation.
It's that's amazing. It's we and some of my coaching clients, because it's as we, you and I talk, and it kind of morphs all together. I love what Tony Robbins says. It's a lot of people want to say, what should I do? What's a strategy? And it doesn't start there. It starts with the state of mind first. And then from there, and I'm sure that goes to the story that we tell ourselves, then it's the strategy is the easy part. We got to flip it. And go around. I'm like the number one breaker of that rule. Cause again, you want to know, as you were navigating that and you're raising your children, you're mourning the loss of Maurice, you're growing that. What came about in that season of your life of the strength that maybe you didn't know you had?
Oh my God, Pat, the whole journey was strength I didn't know I had. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where the resilience, because for me, it was just day by day. And again, that belief that my story doesn't end here. And if there's going to be something more from this, if it can't be for me, who can it be for? And it was always my kids for the longest time.
Mhm.
And it was just the willingness to keep on, and I get a no, okay, fine. Let's keep going till we get a yes. You get a yes, and you keep going till you get another one. The mindset, I don't think that it was inherent. I think it was, again, that one moment where I had that encounter with that leader, and I was just like, there's got to be something different. And when I invested in my own professional development coach, and she started to challenge the way that I thought, she started to push back the things that I considered normal. And once she did that, things started to change. And I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe this is a new way of operating or being. But I don't think that I would have gotten there um on my own. It's not something that I've done on my own. Again, it's just studying success, connecting with people, learning the differences and how people think and how they act, how they behave, and adapting what works and letting go of what doesn't.
So that's a nugget that I want, if you don't mind talking more about. That's super powerful to me because so many people who are successful, they know enough about a subject to think they're right. And that's usually where the learning stops. But they don't want to know enough about a subject to think that they could potentially be wrong. And what I just heard you say was the coach extrapolated almost every ounce of potential out of me that I knew I had, but I wasn't quite sure that I had it. So talk more about that relationship that, Kashaun, I know you and you were investing in yourself and all of these different waves are coming at you. Why was a coach so instrumental to pull that out? Because I think that's a nugget that I don't think a lot of people quite grasp.
Okay. Well, I think for me, it was, first of all, when I connected with her, I didn't even know what coaching was. I went to see her for support because my children were getting older. I'm trying to navigate, still going through the grief and the loss. And I'm like, okay, they're in this transition cycle. They were kind of in that preteen stage. And I'm like, I'm about to lose my mind and I need help. That was all I had. And when I talked with her, she did spend some time with the children and me, but then I'm not sure if it was how I was responding to what she was asking, that we took this professional turn. And it came out of me talking to her about what matters. I said, right now in my world, I am the primary breadwinner for my family. And I don't know when that's going to change. So I need to stabilize and do whatever I can do to continue to provide for them and to do better for myself. And you're right. I think for a long time we think that we know enough just to prove that we're right, and then we stop. That though has I don't think that's ever been my model. I always assume that there's another way.
I can attest to that. Well, really, in that same season, you were writing, you're advancing your education, you're changing roles, you're building a business. What standard did you set for yourself that really allowed you to do it?
Don't quit. That was it. As long as I still had life, I would not quit.
I got
And that's
goosebumps.
still
I got goosebumps. It's right. You're looking for this big oratory, and it's like 2 words: don't quit.
don't quit.
So to expound on that, we kind of, what is it? We don't rise to an example, but we fall to the standards that we set for ourselves, right? It's something along those lines. So I'm sure any listeners can correct me on that. But was it once you made your mind up, that state of mind, that's it.
That's it. That was always it from day one. I can't do anything about all these curveballs that are coming my way. So I could expend my energy trying to fight them. That wouldn't do any good. And I knew that. So where can I spend my energy? I can spend my energy doing better for myself, doing better for my kids. And again, just having that awareness about what was going on around me that I could control, that I could have impact over. Because so much, 90%, I think, of my life felt out of my control. And I really honed in on that 10%. I grabbed hard and tight to it, and I just haven't let it go.
And because I'm trying to think of, I don't think, I think the human brain automatically goes to like, what if I'm in that situation? What would I do? And I kind of go to those quiet moments. The kids are asleep, right? It's 9:47. I tend to like visualize it. So it's like 9:47 on the clock in the stove, right? We kind of look at it and you can kind of hear like the clock ticking in the background. What are you doing in those quiet moments to kind of bring yourself to be like, okay, the kids are sleeping and it's so tough to live in the present because we've thought about what's happened and maybe our subconscious is replaying that. We definitely have to get prepared for the next day, right? I can't even imagine like, okay, school lunches, getting the bags ready, making sure that the homework was done or whatever that may be. What were you doing from that 9:47, let's say, again, I'm just making that up,
Mhm.
to whenever that bedtime was? Because I always found that that was the hardest time for me to get out of my own way.
Mm. That's a really interesting question. And I think, Pat, for me, I say I'm kind of a loner by sport.
Oh,
So I'm okay with being with me. And I think during that time it was where I really gave myself the space to process and to feel. I didn't want to avoid the emotion of everything. So if I was frustrated, I needed to let that frustration out. Why? Because if I tried to suppress it, it would find another way. And I had too much going on for to risk just damaging something else or making anything worse. So I always used that time. That was my me time. Let me whatever it is. And most times earlier on, it was the grief, it was the sadness, it was the crying, the frustration, the yelling. And what I would do once my kids got a little older is I would just go take a drive. And in that drive, whatever came out, I just let it out. Because I had to have an outlet for it. And I didn't want it to go misguided or misdirected into anywhere else. Everything else was off limits. So I created a space where I could just let it out.
that's right. That's why I'm so inspired by you because in my 9:47, I felt it was almost like that that was my time. Maybe I earned that time. And I didn't have those guardrails.
Mhm.
So maybe you go into something that maybe isn't in your best interest. And what what muscle do you help your coaching clients build to not go into that? Because everybody has their own guardrails or they don't have any guardrails.
So when you said not go into that, go into the despair or what? What do you
No,
mean?
no, like for you to say, like, I just can't go down that path. I won't allow it. I can't.
So it's about establishing the parameters. It's allowing it, and it's almost a bit of controlling yourself because again, you can't control a lot of the other things. And it's like, okay, here's your time. And whatever you can do in your time, you're free to do it. Now, it's sounding a lot cleaner than what it actually is. Are there moments where you're out and about and something tries to come through? Absolutely. But that's your own emotional regulation. You've got to bring yourself back. You've got to reel yourself in and understand that These moments are much too precious for you to allow an outburst or something like that to impede on any form of progress. And it's not striving for perfection. I'm never a perfectionist. I will do it wrong so many times before I figure out how to get it right. And I'm okay with that. But once I've managed to make it my own, I stick with it.
That's the thing. And I'm so awed by that because those are the two muscles I don't have. I want to make it as good as possible the first time. Like I'm not good at like just starting. I think we were talking before. Brene Brown calls it, celebrating the shitty first draft. They call it the SFD at her practice, which I love and I stink at. Thank God for AI now, right? But the other muscle, like I want to stay on this for just a second because I'm so curious because it's like holding a ball underwater. Eventually something's got to rise. And I'm not talking about just anybody it comes out differently in everybody. So was that muscle ingrained in you? Did you not have to build it? Or was it because for me that was that still is to this day, the weakest muscle in my body.
Mm. So Pat,
Yeah. So I'm
let's
like, this is like, I'm leaning in because I'm like, hey, Coach Kashaun, I need you. I need you here. Help me.
I want to be completely honest and transparent with you. It took for me to get it wrong. I had a blow up moment. And it was when I came home, and I don't know, something was going on. The day was just terrible. And before I even knew it, it started coming out on the kids. And I looked at their faces and I'm like, they're going through enough. I don't want to be the source of their pain. So whatever I need to do, and that was me holding myself accountable and responsible. Whatever you need to do, you get it together. But you don't get to go in there and take it out on them. They didn't go to work with you. They didn't have the day you had. And once I saw that, again, I think it was at that moment where I knew that I need to go get somebody to help me figure out how to do this. Because the stress, the pressure, all of it was real. And you're carrying so much and you're like, "God damn, if one more thing." But that's your card, that's your deck. I don't care what it looks like. You don't get to just throw it at somebody else.
Can you teach me? Because I want to give them all the smoke. I call it ripping eyeballs out. Like oh my gosh, that's such a great muscle. I could talk to you for hours about just on this subject alone. What do you think is kind of the deeper impact of your work that people don't quite see or quite understand until they experience it firsthand? Now, I just experienced it firsthand, right? So I just had a breakthrough like, hey, dude, you can't do it.
Can't do it. I think so. In the work that I'm doing, I chose leadership because one, I love all things business. I love the environment of it. But what I've learned, again, in studying success, you also learn some things that are a little bit unsuccessful. There's this storyline that's ingrained in the fabric of organizations. And you have all of these people that have really great intentions and they want to make a difference and then they want to be able to grow up and be something amazing in the world, but they don't know how to do it. And they can't tell where they're in their own way. They can't tell what things are helping and contributing to the success they want to have. And then what things are they putting themselves in that's taking them away from the very thing they're saying they want to go get and create. And this came from me. I did not know I was in my own way for my leadership growth. I had poor emotional regulation. I would blow up. I mean, it didn't matter. And I would just go off the hinge. And I didn't see how that correlated to the success that I was having in my career. Once I drew the line, I want to make sure that everybody else can see the line too. There's just a sense of responsibility. And that's really what my clients get when they get with me. The first thing that we do is we talk about, well, what are you going for? What are you after? What's the impact that you want to make? And you need to be honest because wherever you tell me is where we're going to go. And we're going to tackle whatever the nuances that come up because we all have them, but you're going to get to what you're aiming for. That's the commitment.
I love it. I love it. What, because there's part of our job at Pinnacle is coaching as well.
Mhm.
How often are you finding that people don't have a clear vision? They right, they want to go somewhere, but again, they're starting with the strategy first. Do you help them reverse engineer it? Or what? I would love to hear your process.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is, yes, you're right. A lot of people think that, okay, this is the vision. This is where I want to go. This is how I think I want to get there. And I say, okay, great. And we spend about 3 months together and we're unpacking the success of that. And one of the questions that I try to make sure to ask every time is, well, what have you done so far and what successes have you had? That tells me a lot about the vision, the mission, the drive that you're on, and what the interactions are. But then what I also find is that we have these lofty aspirations and they're great. I love them, but we're not always willing to do the things that it takes to be able to achieve those lofty aspirations. So they just become pipe dreams. I can't tell you how many times I've been stopped or had a conversation and they're like, man, I wanna be a successful business owner. I'm gonna run my own business. And I say, great. What are you doing today
Have they
that's
talked
gonna
to us,
help
Kashaun? Have they talked to us? Good. Do you?
the
You sure? You're about to get what you asked for.
you're gonna get what you ask for. And then they get into it. And that's the other side of it, right? You get people who are they roll their sleeves up and they're in the trenches trying to build something that doesn't exist, that it only exists in their mind. And they're trying to put it out there into the world. And they're falling and it's hard. And I say, yes, it's supposed to be hard. The difficulty is not an indication that you need to quit. Just figure out what the limitations are because you can only grow your business or anything that you're doing to the degree that you meet it with that same growth. You're building a business, it's going to grow you. You don't leave the same way you enter it.
Well, I'm not supposed to grow these extra ear hairs that
Oh
start
my
coming
gosh.
out. Like, I don't know what that is. Turning 45 and having the businesses, you don't know where part of that you're going to grow. As you get to that clarity, what do you help them to get to get just like succinct clarity? Like I talk a lot about with my fitness clients, like if it can't be tracked, it can't be measured. If it can't be measured, it can't be improved upon. So how do you get them there?
So here's what I've learned, Pat. If I meet somebody and I give them the blueprint and we talk through it, this is exactly what you're going to do. 90% of them will get overwhelmed by the process.
Mm.
So you don't get the process. We're going to walk through it. I want to know the end goal. You need to have something that you're going after. But we're going to step by step go through it because I've already understood that trying to put the whole thing in front of you, you wouldn't do it. It's the same is true for us in life. Pat, if you found out day one that you would have to go through and do all the things that you would have to do in order to get to this level of success, you likely would have said, forget it. That's not how life unfolds for us. What does it do? It's incremental, it's process driven, it's step by step. And so the same is true. That's the process that I adapted. Now, there's a strategy, but you don't need that. What you need is just to piecemeal it, and it's situational. So I want to know what's going on with you. We're not talking in theory and abstract. I need to know in your environment what is going on. And if you can't give me that, then we'll talk there. You're going to say, that's some great information. I'm going to say, I know, right? You'll
I know,
walk
right?
away. Yeah, it's good. But it has given tremendous amounts of success. There's nothing more gratifying when I'm working with these clients and they're coming back to me and they're like, it worked. Like, oh my God,
Oh my God, a system worked. What?
it worked. And I say, exactly, because you worked. And we celebrate that, but that really is the moment. I always tell people it's the process. You will respect the journey so much more. Don't try to have it all figured out. It's not linear. You're not supposed to.
Jill's seeped into my bones. She's a project manager, and there's the linear methodology, and now like everybody's going to the agile methodology because life's not linear; it's agile. So, with that said, I always love this question: by leading, while you're sincerely leading leaders, right? What is it that most people are missing? So, like again, uh, or I should say, what pattern keeps showing up that most people miss?
Oh, I love that question. That we operate and do business with people.
Let's go. Let's go, Kashaun.
You
Let's go.
you don't have anything. I mean, and I don't care where we are with automation and AI, all
Mhm.
of those things, they're supplemental tools, but you don't get aside and get along without other people. And it's from the very bottom all the way through to the very top. It's the
Yes.
same message. And having people to understand, you have to learn how to get along with other people. You have to understand what their motivators are and how they align with your motivators. A lot of times we think it's a give and take. Pat, if you have a methodology or something that you believe, then that makes me think that I automatically have to drop mine. No, they can coexist. Let's figure out how they can. Or just because you're right doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Whatever the case is, but somehow we're losing sight of just the human interaction. And I think it's one of the most significant challenges that I do have in my practice today.
And that's why I think people with very high IQs like you are great at pattern recognition, but then pattern utilization. I swear, I'm like a talking puppet for Tony Robbins. Really, it's really true. But you've created a new pattern, and I'm going to borrow it for the rest of my life now. That yes, we build a methodology here, but I love your verbiage of it doesn't mean that your method's wrong. Like we just need a path. So, do you celebrate like the momentum steps?
The in-betweens?
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What
Absolutely.
does that look like if I'm a COO at a company in Ohio and I'm like, I'm hiring Kashaun because my friend got great results with Kashaun. What does that look like?
The in-between.
Uh-huh.
So it would differ between what it is that you hired me to do. What are we doing? And once we do that, then the next thing you're going to do for me is have me to understand exactly where you are in your world. And I ingrain and I integrate myself into that. Right. And you might say, I'm a COO and I have people all over the place who are just focused on the wrong things and they're building all these great strategies, but nobody's doing anything. Just gradually, a strategy that has taken root and people are starting to implement. And even if they're implementing wrong, we're going to celebrate that they're implementing. They are doing something. Now you get new data, and so we can do something else, right? And then it's okay. So now what else is still happening? How do you go in and reshape and refine what's happening now? And we build the momentum and we build the progress. It's not in the end result. It really is those small progressive states because we're going to go back and we're going to look at those. You remember when you first came to see me and you couldn't get people into action, like they couldn't distill down what you were given and figuring out their piece of it. Now look.
And then, I mean, I guess that begs the next is what separates the leaders that you're coaching that actually get the buy-in versus the people who are just talking about it.
Ask that in a different way.
The people who say, Kashaun, I'm in. I got you. Versus the people who are like, yeah, I like that, Kashaun, but ... dot.
Oh, that's easy. Pat, I'm not in the business to convince anybody. If you're not bought into it, we don't, I mean, you can stay along, but if I have to coerce you, that's just above and beyond what I'm doing. You have to know. My job is supplementary. My job is to support you and help you along the way. But if I have to convince you, now you're pushing my vision, you're pushing my dream. That's not yours. It needs to be yours.
Do you set the frame automatically what your vision is?
I tell them my intention.
Gotcha. What's that
I,
sound like? Well, I'm sincere. I'm sincerely curious.
yeah. Oh, I just let them know in the onset, I am driven towards success. Whatever that looks like, and we're going to identify it. And I ask them, by the time we are done, what do you want to have achieved? And by the way, if that changes, we're adding to this list. We're not taking anything away from it. And most of my clients, 99% of them, they say that was the difference maker. That's the thing that really drove them into it because it was really around them and what they wanted. All we did is navigate and figure out how to get them there. It's powerful, Pat, especially in spaces where everything is so structured and you feel like there's only a right and wrong way to do things. when you start to put some of that power back into these individuals and say there's so much creativity and gray in these spaces to operate, you do have lines in which you have to color in, but you can choose if you want to go from a light gray to a dark gray to a white to a black. Like you have so many things at your disposal. You just need to understand that you can do that.
I've seen kind of, I don't know, maybe like I've seen just you grow in so many different ways. Not that you need my, you know, uh, sign off on anything, but I would say, where have you grown the most? Because I know what really stuck out to me is when you wrote your first book, because, if people don't know, she's like one of the best speakers on stage. I will say something that stuck out to me the most when I felt the change in you by knowing you for over a decade was when it says, as you're speaking on stage, that yes, you're introverted. I guess I don't really like those words, but you said like, "Hey, I'm cool with being alone," which quote unquote could technically be introverted, whatever that means in this world, right? But what struck me the most was this: when you said, "I can't speak on stage. I'm an introvert," and you flipped it, because I think that was powerful to me. So somebody else has got to hear this. It was like, no, I'm an introvert who is a speaker. And I might have just completely demolished that, but share what that was. I love that insight.
You know what? That was my aha moment because for a long time I lived by the introversion. The fact that I am okay with being by myself, the fact that I can operate quite well in a silo or behind the scenes. Um, for the majority of my career, I spent my time building strategy and being a cheerleader for others on my team. It's like, here's what you need to do, go do it. Here's what you need to do, go do it. And I was okay with that. And then the coaching that I was in, she's like, yeah, you've got a bit of social awkwardness though. So we're gonna work through that. There's
All right.
this
Just
organization.
smile. You got that beautiful smile. You just
Oh,
smile at it and be like, what? You're supposed to do that.
she's like, there's this organization called Toastmasters. I want you to go
Mm.
check it out. I'm not asking you to do anything else, just go see. And I put it off for about 2 years. I was like, no, I don't need Toastmasters. Well, it was right after COVID. I needed to get a break in between work, mommy, and kids. So I went to Toastmasters. And I remember giving my first talk, and I was just, my palms were sweating, my knees were knocking, and I'm like, I am not letting this get the best of me. I'm going to figure out how to do this. And I learned that it was like everything else that we learn how to do. When you get on a bike, you don't necessarily get on the bike and start pedaling. You fall first, and it's wobbly. So this was the same criteria almost. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it bad at first until I'm really, really good. And by the way, I am introverted, but that's not stopping me. And that's that flip that you heard me mention during one of my talks. For many of us who find ourselves widowed, it's a life defining moment. And it's like, no, it's not. You get to do whatever you want to do with it. And I said, here's mine. I'm introverted. I like to be by myself. I'm closed off. But because I also have this thing that I want to know how to do. I want to know how to be a public speaker. So in my talk, I just worked that in there, not knowing that it would resonate. I mean, so many people have reached out to me for that one thing. Like, do you know how powerful that was? I'm like,
That was,
yeah.
we haven't talked about it. I'll tell you, for me, I'd say that all the time.
It was truthful. I mean, it was honest. And that's really what I'm about. I will tell you the truth. Sometimes whether me or you want to hear it or not, you'll get it.
Yeah. I'd never bet against you. One thing I've heard you say twice, we haven't quite touched on it yet, is family. So share a little bit with the listeners how hope, faith, and family has kind of changed the way you lead and coach.
Well, Pat, that's such a good question.
I'm gonna start tearing up because man, I've been getting sentimental in my old days. But I'll tell you what, it gives me chills because I know you and I know how great of a faith leader you are. So I'm just gonna shut up now. I'm sorry.
Everything, everything that I do is rooted in faith, family, and hope. When you look at my story, the journey, like it seems pretty hopeless, being honest. And you're like, what in the world? But it wasn't my hope. And I think I started this conversation off with that. The things that I've done, I didn't do it on my own strength. It was my faith. It was like, okay, God, if we're gonna do this, I'm turning it all over to you. Help me. Because I knew that this was a bigger mountain than I had ever climbed before. It was asking more of me than I knew was within me to give. But my faith taught me that God is not going to ask something of you that he didn't deposit in you. God will not demand something of you that he did not deposit in you.
I got to think of D&D. So God will not demand something of you that he didn't deposit in you.
Yeah. And that's that foundation. It shows up everywhere. I lead with it. And it's the same thing that I give to my clients. What we're pulling out of you is just an extraction. It's there. You might not recognize it. It might be out of shape. It might not be exercised at all, but we know it's there. And I lead in prayer, Pat, just every day, all day. Lord, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to help? Show me. And I let that guide the interaction. It's the submission.
I love it. I kind of, as we talk about faith, I kind of see it as that conversation all day long, regardless of one's faith. I kind of think of I had that talk with Jesus. He's kind of by my side, right? So if he was here, like in today's version, I'm thinking of him like with a man bun and maybe some sandals or something, right? And I'm just like, hey, how can I bless somebody today? What? Let me look for the in between stuff. Maybe it's the lady or the guy at the gas station, the lady, the cashier, or the guy at the gas station, and they're going through the same stuff. And I know you get it. So so I guess I'm being self-aware, but I want to hear from you are you already setting that intention that you're just going to have an ongoing conversation throughout the day and those
With
become prayers?
with God. But it's for me, I need to make sure that I'm not in the way of anything that he needs to use or wants me to be. I am fully open to it. And sometimes it's challenging and painful. And sometimes I laugh, and I think you and I laughed about this a little bit ago. We're like, God has a sense of humor. He does. Because when you open up to him, you better be ready. But one of the other things is I think the growth moment for me in my faith was realizing I held a standard, between the relationship for me and God that says, I never want to let him down. And for me, that translated into, well, I need to make sure that I'm polished and perfect until I couldn't be that. I couldn't be polished and perfect and hurting it. And so when I gave myself permission to put that away, and now let me just be raw and real and wherever I'm at, and then saying, I don't want any of this to go to waste. And for God, it's like nothing is wasted anyway. Great. So now we're aligned. Let's go. And that's how my faith leads me. So every interaction, every conversation before this one, Lord, use me. Whatever you want to come out of this, let's talk about it. That's always the prayer.
Yeah, that's why you're my sister somehow. You're my sister somehow. Now, you are pursuing your doctorate, so I do want you to talk a little bit about that. How is that, to use that word pursue, what does that mean to you today, knowing everything it took you to kind of get here? Because
Oh my God.
we spoke earlier and it's 14, 16-hour days. I'm going through it.
Yep.
It's so share that with the listeners if you don't mind.
So my doctorate. It's because I'm crazy, Pat. I really
Okay.
am. Okay. No. Oh, but I love to learn. And as many ways as I can put myself in the stance of being a student, I'm willing to do that. I love education. I love business. And so the doctorate, I mean, I can go back to young kid Kashaun sitting there, and my favorite thing to do with my siblings, like we would come home from a long day of school, and I just wanted to come back and play school. I wanted to be the teacher.
Oh, do you?
Always. I needed to give out the homework and tell them what they were going to do. So the learning has always been ingrained in when I do it. And even then I would fantasize, well, when I grow up, I'm going to be the smartest person, on the planet. Of course, that's crazy to think, but when the path opened up, it's like, okay, I have my master's. I want to continue to learn. I'm passionate about business. What next? And I thought about, okay, so what does it mean to have a doctorate? And I learned that, okay, so now you're contributing to the evolution of business,
Yes.
because mine is not the theory of it. I actually get in there and I test out the theories within organizations. We find out what's working and what's not working, and then where do we need to refine the theory. We're proving out, methodologies and gaps. I love it here. Because it gives my mind like this huge, huge sandbox that I get to play in all day.
I,
And it is
I
14
love
hour days, 14, 16-hour days.
it's just takes a rare. I'm not talking about myself. It takes a rare person. I mean, it's not even close, So anybody listening, she's raising 3 children while she's doing this and running a business and doing this all by herself and then doing that. So when people say they don't have time, what do you even say to that? I don't have time to do that, Kashaun.
You won't. You won't. It's that simple. I find that, and I've heard it too, right? All the things about, well, things get busy or I don't have time. Instinctively, we know the things that matter, and sometimes capacity is real. I do not want to send a
Yeah.
message that, that it's an illusion, because it's not. But bandwidth is something that is in my mind, it has a stretching point. Now, you don't want to stretch it to the point that it breaks, but if you have room, you can bring things in it, and you'll prioritize what matters, what makes the most sense for you in your world as you see it. For me, this made sense for me. My kids are getting older, and so I have the bandwidth to be able to take this undertaking on. And when it's not this, it'll be something else. I'm just, you know, I love learning. So it'll be some kind of certificate, some kind of something, just to keep my mind sharp, because that's what motivates me.
I love it. As we kind of come towards the end of it, and you and I could talk to you all day. Um, I really want the listeners to know when they encounter you for the first time and then they talk to you, what do you hope changes inside of them?
That's a powerful question, and probably powerful because that is a bit of the information, the insight that I elicit from my clients. And I always like to ask them, when you thought you were going to be partnering with me as a coach, and what you thought you were getting, how is that different than what you've gotten and what this experience is? Across the board, many of them say it's the level of detailed support. And they will say time and time again, we know that you have other clients, but for us in that moment, it feels like we are the only one. You're so bought in and so driven. It feels like you work in our organization. It feels like you are a part of our day to day. That's how much we get of you. You can't fake that, right? We can tell that you're passionate about it. And that's what motivates us to want to do the work, to keep showing up, because you're showing up for us. And it
Is
just,
that humbling? Is that humbling when you hear that?
oh my God, incredibly. And because I mean, for me, it's just, I want to see people win. It really is that simple. Whatever that looks like. Now, I've just chosen the career path, but in career, in life, whatever it is, I want to see people win. And so however I can show up and do that, I'm willing to do it.
And it's a rare thing, and it's not, again, I'm like the Ted Lasso, right? I'm being curious, not judgmental. So many people don't want to see other people win. Is
Mm.
that triggering to them or that? And just like you did, like you have a curious reaction versus a judgmental one, which is rare, So kind of in closing, I want to leave the listeners, and if they had to walk away from Kashaun Parker, right? And this is the only time they get to meet you. I hope they don't. I hope they reach out to you and everybody that needs a coach like you. If someone listening right now is kind of quietly in pursuit of something themselves, it's kind of stirring it up, right? And like you're not quite sure. What would you want to directly say to them?
I think if the stirring is happening, I would just, I don't know, I would advise them to act on it. Because the worst thing that you could do is always wonder what if. Like that, if you talk about what is agonizing, it's knowing that life showed up, time and opportunity showed up at the same time. And you didn't rise to meet the occasion. So it's just start, do something, whatever it is, and then you figure it out along the way. You work through it as you go. But that's, I think, is what I would let them know. Like, you don't have to have all the steps figured out. That's why you partner with somebody, because they can see what you can't.
And what would that first step look like? Conversation. I love it. Just one thing, right? Just one action step. That's it. Well, Kashaun, you're a beautiful, beautiful soul. I'm humbled to know you. God has put you in my life for a reason. I think that I'm trying to get that word out of my vocabulary. I know that and we have similar birthdays, right? Within a year, I believe.
Yep.
And with all of your life experience, so many people think that like, oh, okay, I can't quite do this, or I can't quite do this, or my kids are this age. You have a whole other life to live and helping and empowering people. And I just want to say that I'm a cheerleader on the sideline for you. I love to see you win. Keep having that beautiful smile. I do not know how you have that white of teeth, right? So God bless you, and thank you so much for coming on The Pursuit. And we'd love to have you back on in 12 to 18 months to see kind of the progress and how many lives you're affecting. And just thank you so much for being a guest.
Absolutely, Pat. Thank you for having me. This has been a great conversation.
Well, I appreciate you, and God bless.
God bless you.
Remember, whatever you're pursuing, you don't have to have it all figured out. Just start. Take one action step, have one conversation, and trust that what you need is already within you. This is The Pursuit.